In this video, we will explore the file search algorithm in C# using WinUI. You will learn about key aspects of asynchronous programming, such as task-run, exception handling, and canceling operations with CancellationToken. We will also demonstrate how to optimize performance and maintain a responsive user interface during long-running tasks. Before we begin, let's add communitytoolkit.winui to our project so we can use DispatcherQueue.enqueue. This will allow us to safely update the user interface during asynchronous operations. Let's get started. This code defines the user interface for an application designed to search for files in a selected directory. It includes several controls such as buttons for selecting a directory, starting the search, and interrupting the operation, text fields for displaying the path to the selected directory and entering a search string, as well as a progress bar and a text block for updating the search status. Each button has a click event handler defined to perform the corresponding actions, selecting a directory, starting the search, and interrupting the operation. This code defines a data grid control, which is used to display data in a tabular format. Each row of the table corresponds to a file details object from the data grid files collection. Data grid columns define the header and data binding for each column in the table. For example, the filename column will display the name property of the file details object, and the date modified column will display the date modified property, and so on for the remaining columns. The file details record defines a data model for storing file information, including name, date modified, size, path, and extension. The observable collection named DataGrid files is used to hold and manage a dynamic list of file details objects, automatically updating any bound UI components when the collection changes, making it ideal for use in data binding scenarios like displaying files in a data grid. This method handles the Select Directory button click event. When the button is clicked, a folder picker instance is created, which allows the user to select a directory. Then the method initializes the folder picker using methods for working with Windows. Next, a preferred initial location for the folder picker is set, in this case, the desktop. Then the pick single folder async method is called, which opens the folder selection dialog and waits for the user to select a folder or close the window. If the user selects a folder, the path to that folder is written to the directory text box text field. This method handles the search button click event. When the button is clicked, the path to the directory and the search string are collected from the respective text fields. Then a check is made for the presence of correct values in both fields. If either field is empty or contains only witty space characters, a dialog window is displayed warning of this error. If both fields are filled, the isIndeterminate value of the progress bar control is set to true to display animated indication of the search operation progress. The search button is disabled to prevent repeated clicks during the operation. Then the asynchronous find files async method is called, which performs the operation of searching for files in the specified directory using the specified search string. After the search operation is completed, the search button is unlocked for subsequent use. The getFileSize method takes a file path and returns a string representing the file size in a readable format. Cancellation token source equals null. This is a private class field representing the cancellation token source for the file search operation. It is initialized with a null value and is used to cancel the search operation if necessary. Task find files async. This is an asynchronous method that takes three parameters: the path to the directory, the search pattern, and the search option. It is responsible for performing the file search operation asynchronously. var files equals new list, and var directories equals new stack. Two collections are created: files, which will store the found files, and directories, which is used for traversing directories. IEnumerable dir files and IEnumerable subdirectories. Variables dir files and subdirectories are initialized as empty sequences of strings. They will be used to temporarily store the results of file and subdirectory searches, respectively. Cancellation token source equals new cancellation token source. A new instance of cancellation token source is created, which will be used to cancel the search operation. var cancellation token equals cancellation token source token. The cancellation token is obtained from cancellation token source, which will be used to check for cancellation requests during the execution of the search operation. Directories, push, path. The source directory is added to the directory stack to start traversing. While directories count is greater than 0. A loop is started, which continues as long as the directory stack is not empty. dir files equals await task.run directory.enumerate files. An asynchronous task.Run operation is called to execute directory.enumerate files in a separate thread. This allows avoiding blocking the main execution thread and maintaining application responsiveness. Files.addressEng, dir files. The found files are added to the files list. DispatcherQueue.tryandqueue. Used to safely update user interface elements in the main execution thread. In this case, the text block is updated to display the number of found files. If search option equals search option.allDirectories. Checks the search option. If the search option.allDirectories option is selected, the method will recursively traverse all subdirectories and continue searching for files. CancellationToken.throw if cancellation requested. Checks for a cancellation request for the file search operation. If a cancellation request has been received, the method throws an operation cancelled exception to abort the search operation. Set the progress bar.isIndeterminate progress indicator to false to display actual progress. Set the maximum value of progress bar maximum to the number of found files. Await task.Run. Using task.Run to execute an asynchronous task on a separate thread. Processed files, counter for processed files. Batch size for batch adding. Batch, list for temporarily storing files before batch adding. For each, var file in files, iterating through all files in the files collection. If, CancellationToken. Is cancellation requested, break, checking if a cancellation request was made through CancellationToken. File details equals new file details, creating a file details object and populating it with file data. Batch add, file details adding the object to the batch list. If the number of objects in batch reaches batch size, calling add files to datagrid async to add them to the datagrid and clearing the list. Await DispatcherQueue.enqueue async, updating the progress bar and text block with the count of processed files on the main thread via DispatcherQueue. Catch, exception X catching any exceptions that occur during file processing and writing an error message to the debug output. If, batch, any, await add files to datagrid. If there are remaining files in batch after the loop completes, adding them to the datagrid. Progress bar value equals 0, resetting the progress bar on the main thread via DispatcherQueue. Clean up resources associated with the file search operation. Call the dispose method to release resources of CancellationToken source. Then set CancellationToken source to null to indicate that the resources are no longer in use. Clear the files and directories lists. Method add files to datagrid async. The method takes a list of file details and adds its elements to datagrid files on the main thread via DispatcherQueue. The stop button click method is called when the stop button is clicked. Inside this method, it checks if the CancellationToken source instance exists. If it exists, meaning the file search operation is not yet completed, the method calls the cancel method for this CancellationToken source, which results in a request to cancel the file search operation. This code efficiently processes and displays files in a datagrid with batch adding and asynchronous UI updates, significantly improving the application's performance and responsiveness.